Nobody ever came to these sites with a clear idea of what they were searching for.
For centuries, we've been told she was the most beautiful woman in history. But new DNA insights and forensic reconstructions paint a far more unsettling picture. The last pharaoh may not have been a legendary beauty after all. She may have been living with serious genetic risks. Recent analysis suggests that Cleopatra's greatest struggle wasn't just against the Roman Empire, but possibly against her own biology. And what's truly fascinating is this. The clues weren't hidden away in some secret tomb. They've been right in front of us for over 2,000 years. You just have to know where to look. The gateway to the underworld. For over 2,000 years, Egypt's sands have guarded a single powerful secret, one that has puzzled historians and treasure hunters alike. It's the mystery of the final resting place of the last pharaoh, Queen Cleopatra. Most experts will tell you she's gone. According to them, her tomb lies beneath the modern city of Alexandria, lost forever to earthquakes, floods, and time itself. But for the past 2 decades, one woman has challenged that belief, refusing to accept the story as it stands. Her name is Kathleen Martinez. She's not your typical academic in a tweed jacket. A criminal lawyer from the Dominican Republic turned archaeologist, Martinez didn't treat this like a history lesson. She approached it like a cold case, one that needed to be reopened, re-examined, and solved. She approached Cleopatra's disappearance like a crime scene, something to be carefully decoded. While everyone else was looking in one direction, Martinez chose another. Following her instincts, she traced the clues about 30 miles west of Alexandria to a forgotten, crumbling temple known as Taposiris Magna. Then, in 2022, everything changed. Beneath the ground, her team detected something unusual, a massive anomaly. When they broke through the limestone, they uncovered something that shouldn't have been there at all, a tunnel. But this wasn't just any tunnel, it was extraordinary. Carved straight through solid bedrock, it stretches over 4,300 feet, nearly a mile long. Standing about 6 feet high, parts of it are submerged in mud and water, and it runs directly toward the Mediterranean Sea. Experts have described it as a geometric marvel, an engineering masterpiece that closely mirrors the design of a legendary ancient Greek tunnel. But here's the real question. Why go this far? Why dig 45 feet underground through unstable, dangerous rock? You don't build a mile-long tunnel for something insignificant. This kind of effort points to something incredibly important. The discovery of a sunken port nearby suggests this wasn't just an isolated temple, it was once a major center of activity. And Martinez believes this tunnel leads to something far more significant, possibly the final destination. Her theory is surprisingly simple yet powerful. Cleopatra wasn't just trying to escape death, she was trying to escape Rome. She refused to be captured and paraded in chains. Instead, she chose her own ending. She wanted to be buried beside her lover, Mark Antony, and remembered as the living embodiment of the goddess Isis. To achieve that, she would have needed a tomb so well hidden that no one could ever disturb it. So she chose a place no one would think to search. And now Kathleen Martinez may have uncovered the very entrance to that hidden sanctuary. And while Cleopatra herself hasn't been found yet, the evidence uncovered so far points to something far more mysterious and unsettling. What researchers discovered inside the mouths of the dead changed everything. Inside the site, the team made a chilling discovery. Hidden within 16 rock-cut tombs were mummies, but these were no ordinary burials. As archaeologists examined the remains, they noticed something glinting in the darkness: gold.
Placed inside the mouths of the mummies where their tongues once were delicate amulets made of gold foil. In ancient Egyptian belief, surviving the afterlife meant being able to speak before Osiris, the ruler of the underworld. You had to defend your soul, tell your story, and a golden tongue symbolized that power, the ability to speak to a god, often called golden eloquence. But this raises a deeper question. Why here? Why were these individuals buried at this specific temple? Martinez believes these weren't just random nobles. She thinks they may have been part of Cleopatra's inner circle, her most trusted companions, people buried with the tools they needed to speak in the afterlife, perhaps even to announce the arrival of her queen. And if that's true, then this isn't just a burial site, it could be something much bigger. This isn't just a burial site. We may be standing in what was once a royal reception hall, a necropolis prepared for a queen. And if those buried here were truly her closest companions waiting for her arrival, then it suggests something incredible. The final chamber may be close. Even though Martinez hasn't found Cleopatra yet, she may be closer than ever, possibly just steps away from uncovering traces of her DNA. But here's the twist. We might already have a clue to Cleopatra's genetic story, or at least we thought we did. To imagine Cleopatra's true appearance, we don't necessarily need to wait for what's hidden in that tunnel. Instead, we can look to the remains of someone much closer to her, her own sister. The skeleton in the closet may have belonged to a royal princess, one who was hunted down to the very end. To understand the people buried at Taposiris Magna, we first need to understand the kind of ruler Cleopatra really was. History often portrays her as a seductive and charming figure, but her family life was far more dangerous, filled with rivalry and ruthless ambition. Her greatest threat didn't come from Rome, it came from within her own bloodline. Her younger sister, Arsinoe IV, was her fiercest rival. Their relationship was driven by power and survival. When Cleopatra was forced into exile, it was Arsinoe who stepped up and claimed the throne. When Julius Caesar entered Egypt, Arsinoe didn't back down. She led forces against him and even managed to trap him inside the palace for a time. But history favors the victors. Eventually, Arsinoe was defeated, captured, and taken to Rome, where she was paraded in chains. Yet something unexpected happened. The Roman crowd felt sympathy for her. Seeing a young princess humiliated like that moved them deeply, and it likely saved her life. Instead of being executed, she was exiled to the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus, in what is now modern-day Turkey. She believed she was safe there, protected by sacred ground, but she was wrong. In 41 BCE, Cleopatra convinced Mark Antony to do something shocking. He sent assassins to the steps of the temple where Arsinoe had taken refuge. They dragged her out and killed her right there. It was a scandal that shook the ancient world, but for us, over 2,000 years later, it left behind a crucial clue. We knew exactly where it happened. For centuries, Arsinoe seemed lost to history. Then, in the early 1900s, archaeologists working in Ephesus uncovered a mysterious structure known as the Octagon Tomb. Inside, they found a skeleton.
The remains belonged to a young individual, and if the theory was correct, this could have been Arsinoe IV herself. Everything seemed to line up: the timeline, the location, even the estimated age. And if this really was Arsinoe, then it meant something extraordinary. We might have access to Cleopatra's genetic link. It could have answered long-standing questions about her ancestry, health, and family line. In a way, it was like having a biological map to the queen herself. But science doesn't always give easy answers. Early DNA testing failed due to contamination. The bones had been handled too often over the years. For a long time, the mystery remained unresolved. Then, in 2025, new advanced analysis finally delivered results. And what they found wasn't just surprising, it seemed almost impossible. The boy in the tomb. For years, the skeleton discovered in Ephesus was believed to be our closest clue to Cleopatra's true appearance. Scholars studied those bones and thought they had found her sister. They saw hints of ancestry, clues to identity, answers to a mystery that had lasted for centuries. But then, modern science took another look, and everything changed. The turning point came in 2022 when a team from the University of Vienna, led by anthropologist Gerhard Weber, rediscovered a long-lost skull hidden away in the university archives. It had been sitting there, largely unnoticed for decades. This changed everything. Instead of simply examining it, the team used advanced micro-CT scanning to look inside the skull, creating a detailed digital reconstruction of its structure. They also analyzed the petrous part of the temporal bone, the densest part of the skull, known for preserving DNA even when the rest has deteriorated. In January 2025, their findings were published, and what they revealed was deeply unsettling. The skeleton wasn't arsinoe, it wasn't even a young woman. The DNA showed the presence of a Y chromosome, meaning the remains belonged to a male, not just any male, but an adolescent boy, likely between 11 and 14 years old. And there was more. The scans revealed that the boy had suffered from serious developmental disorders. His jaw was underdeveloped, and his skull showed clear signs of asymmetry and distortion. Researchers believe he may have had a condition similar to Treacher-Collins syndrome or severe rickets. This wasn't a powerful royal rival. It was a young boy marked by significant physical challenges, someone whose appearance had been shaped by genetic illness. And perhaps most surprising of all, his DNA didn't trace back to Egypt. Instead, it pointed toward origins in regions like Italy or Sardinia. In an instant, the story everyone believed fell apart. This discovery opens the door to a much darker and far more confusing mystery. For years, we believed the tomb held the victim of a political assassination, but instead, it reveals a different kind of tragedy altogether.
The octagon wasn't just a grave. It was a heroine, a monument built for someone considered heroic or even semi-divine. So why would a sickly, deformed boy from Italy be buried in one of the most prestigious tombs of the ancient world? Was he a scapegoat, a ritual sacrifice? Or could he have been a hidden royal child, someone with both Roman and Egyptian blood, whose existence was too dangerous or too shameful to acknowledge publicly? Perhaps he was honored in death, but kept far from home to hide the truth. Whatever the answer, one thing is clear. The idea that this tomb proved Cleopatra's African lineage was based on flawed assumptions. What once seemed like solid evidence turned out to be a mix of outdated science and hopeful interpretation. So where does that leave us? Back with the historical record. And history tells us that Cleopatra was part of the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek royal family that ruled Egypt. If we want to understand what she may have looked like, we don't necessarily need her remains. We need to look at the family she came from. Because her family tree wasn't normal. It didn't branch outward, it folded in on itself. This is known as pedigree collapse. In most families, the number of ancestors doubles with each generation. 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, and so on. The tree expands over time. But in Cleopatra's family, it did the opposite. The Ptolemies were determined to keep their power and bloodline pure. To do that, they followed the ancient Egyptian tradition of close kin marriages, not just between cousins, but often between brothers and sisters. Over generations, this created a tightly closed genetic loop, one that may have come with serious consequences. Historians believe Cleopatra's own parents, Ptolemy XII and Cleopatra V, were likely full siblings. Even her grandparents may have been closely related, possibly uncle and niece, or even brother and sister. This wasn't a typical family tree, it was a closed loop. Because of this, geneticists estimate Cleopatra's coefficient of inbreeding may have been over 45%. To understand how extreme that is, consider this. A child born to first cousins has an inbreeding coefficient of about 6%. In royal families, like the Habsburgs of Spain, even much lower levels of inbreeding led to serious physical and mental health issues. Take Charles II of Spain, often called the Bewitched. He was the last ruler of the Habsburg line, a dynasty known for intermarriage similar to the Ptolemies. Charles suffered from severe health problems. He couldn't speak until he was 4 years old, or walk until he was 8. His jaw was so deformed that his teeth didn't align, making it nearly impossible for him to chew. He had to swallow food whole. When he died, just 38, reports described a body in shocking condition. His inbreeding coefficient was around 25%. Cleopatra's may have been nearly double that. So why does this happen? It comes down to a concept called homozygosity. Normally, your DNA is a balance between your mother and father. One can offset the weaknesses of the other. If one parent passes down a harmful recessive gene, the other often provides a stronger dominant gene to counter it. It acts like a natural safety net. But in Cleopatra's case, that balance may not have existed. The same genes repeating the same mistakes again and again. Because her parents were so closely related, they likely carried many of the same genetic flaws. There was no healthy variation to balance things out, no backup to cancel out harmful traits. From a biological standpoint, she should have shown serious health problems. In cases like this, inbreeding often leads to visible deformities, weakness, cognitive challenges, and shorter lifespans, similar to what we saw in the boy discovered in Ephesus. But here's the strange part. History doesn't describe Cleopatra that way at all. Instead, she's remembered as highly intelligent and capable, someone who spoke multiple languages and influenced some of the most powerful men in Rome. So how do we explain that? Is it possible she was an exception, a rare genetic outcome where things didn't go as expected? Or could it be that signs of struggle were simply overlooked or misunderstood? To explore that, we have to look at her family.
If you want a glimpse of what Cleopatra may have been up against, consider one of her ancestors, Ptolemy VIII, often called Physcon. Because of the complex family tree, he was not only her great-uncle, but also genetically very close to her. And by most accounts, he suffered from serious health issues. Historical descriptions portray him as extremely overweight, with a body so large and weak that he needed assistance just to move around. But it may have been more than just obesity. records mention a swollen neck, bulging eyes, and difficulty breathing. Today, some medical historians believe these symptoms point to a pattern within the Ptolemaic dynasty, possible inherited metabolic disorders. One condition often suggested is Graves' disease, an autoimmune disorder that affects the thyroid. It can cause symptoms like protruding eyes and a noticeably enlarged neck. And that's where the picture starts to get even more intriguing. Graves' disease doesn't just change how someone looks, it can also affect how they behave. It floods the body with thyroid hormones, pushing it into a constant state of overdrive. Common symptoms include bursts of intense energy, rapid speech, sleeplessness, and sometimes impulsive or high-risk behavior. Now think about how Cleopatra is often described. Historians praise her for her endless energy, working late into the night, always active, always thinking ahead. We've long seen this as a sign of brilliance, but today some medical historians are asking a more unsettling question. What if that energy wasn't just talent, but a symptom? Could the drive and intensity she was known for have been linked to an underlying condition, possibly inherited from her family? If that were the case, how did she manage it? The answer may lie in something often overlooked. Cleopatra wasn't just a ruler, she was deeply knowledgeable about chemistry and medicine. If she was dealing with chronic pain, perhaps from the genetic strain seen in her family line, she would have had access to some of the most advanced remedies of the ancient world. Egypt was a center of early pharmacology. For pain, there was opium, derived from poppy plants, widely used at the time as a powerful pain reliever. It's possible she relied on it to manage physical discomfort and maintain her public presence during long, demanding events. If she struggled with restlessness or insomnia, she may have turned to kaifi, a complex blend of aromatic ingredients used as incense, known for its calming effects. Ancient writers like Plutarch described it as something that could relax the mind and promote sleep. There was also the blue lotus, a plant often infused in wine, believed to produce mild euphoria and relaxation. Cleopatra's famous charm and magnetic presence are well documented, but it raises an interesting possibility. Was some of that allure enhanced by substances that helped her cope and perform? We also know Cleopatra had a strong interest in cosmetics. She even wrote a work known as Cosmeticorum, later referenced by physicians like Galen. This suggests she wasn't just concerned with appearance, she studied it. And that opens another possibility. If she had physical traits she wanted to soften or conceal, whether skin issues or features linked to illness, her use of cosmetics may have been more than beauty. It may have been a form of control, even camouflage. In that light, Cleopatra's image wasn't just about power or attraction. It may have been carefully crafted, shaped by both knowledge and necessity. She may have worn large, elaborate collars and heavy jewelry, not just for style, but to hide a swollen neck. In many ways, she could be seen as one of history's first biohackers, a brilliant woman in a fragile body, using everything she knew about chemistry, plants, and appearance to present herself as a living goddess while quietly managing her own health behind the scenes.
Outwardly, she created an image, but the real story may still be buried underground. And that brings us back to the present, deep beneath the temple of Tabosiris Magna, where Kathleen Martinez continues her search. For over 20 years, she has been trying to find Cleopatra's final resting place. And with the discovery of that massive, precisely engineered tunnel, she may be closer than anyone has ever been. But now the meaning of that discovery feels different. At the start, we were searching for a legend, the iconic queen, the woman who captivated Rome, the beauty immortalized by films, the embodiment of a goddess. Now, science suggests we may find something far more human. If Martinez finally breaks through and uncovers the tomb, it may not just reveal a queen, it could reveal a story written in biology. The remains might belong to a woman who was physically delicate, perhaps even struggling with hidden health issues, yet strong enough to rule and survive in one of history's most dangerous political worlds. She may not resemble the glamorous image we've imagined, but rather someone who endured, adapted, and overcame. A ruler who fought Rome with intelligence and strategy, while also fighting her own body in private. Finding Cleopatra wouldn't just change history, it could change how we understand genetics, health, and resilience in the ancient world. It could finally answer a powerful question. Was she a rare exception who overcame her genetic risks, or someone who ruled despite them? For now, the tunnel remains silent, buried deep beneath layers of earth untouched for centuries. Above ground, modern tools, DNA sequencing technology, and ground-penetrating radar stand ready, waiting for the moment they can unlock what has been hidden for over 2,000 years. And somewhere in that silence, the last pharaoh still keeps her secret. For now, but not forever. As technology continues to improve, the line between legend and real evidence gets thinner, and we need to be ready because the truth about Cleopatra may not be the romantic story we've always imagined. Her reality is likely far more complex and far more unsettling than the version we've seen in movies. We're not just searching for a beautiful queen, we're uncovering the story of a powerful and ruthless survivor, a brilliant strategist who fought for her throne, even against her own family, and witnessed the violent split of her dynasty. When her tomb is finally opened, it won't just change what we know, it will force us to confront a raw, unfiltered version of history. And that raises a fascinating question. If we discover that Cleopatra didn't match the image we've built in our minds, does that change her legacy, or does it make her story even more extraordinary? Share your thoughts below, and if you enjoy uncovering hidden mysteries like this, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.